Dad and his wife tried to force me to babysit my half-siblings instead of going to work. I refused, and now they're furious, but they don't realize I'm saving every penny to leave and cut contact forever. Saturday started days before it even happened. On Thursday night, while I was buried in my homework and trying to keep my head above water with my job and school schedule, Heather, my dad's wife, came into my room without knocking. She's holding a laundry basket, casual as anything, and just drops the bomb like it's a normal request. You need to call out of work on Saturday. I have a doctor's appointment, and somebody has to watch the kids. She says it as if my shift is some after-school club and not the only thing keeping me from being trapped in this house longer than I have to be. I stared at her for a second, trying to process it. I've got 3 half-siblings, all 3 and under. I'm 17. I didn't sign up to be their babysitter. I'm not calling out, I told her. You're going to have to find someone else. Her face tightened immediately. She's used to me just rolling over. Used to me sacrificing my plans because family comes first. My dad must have been waiting for this because not even an hour later he cornered me in the kitchen. He works Saturdays, so of course he's not going to be the one missing work. He folded his arms, gave me that tone he uses when he thinks he's being fatherly, but really he's just talking down to me. My job's more important than yours. You don't need to be so locked in on work and school that you ignore your family. Call out of work and enjoy the day being a big brother. The hypocrisy almost made me laugh. He never once told himself to stay home and be a big dad. I'm not doing that, I told him. I'm going to work whether you like it or not. I went back to my room and shut the door. My hands were shaking. Not out of fear, but out of pure frustration. This is the same man who lectures me about being responsible, yet thinks I should jeopardize my job at the drop of a hat for a woman he married 3 years ago and the kids they had before I even got my driver's license. For the next day and a half, the tension was like a storm cloud over the house. Heather kept making these passive-aggressive comments about some people not helping out. Dad kept sighing loudly every time I walked into the room. By Saturday morning, I'd made my choice. I got up before the sun, skipped breakfast, packed my bag, left for work 2 hours early so there'd be no chance of them physically blocking me. Heather was in the bathroom getting ready when I walked out the door. I could hear her calling my name as I closed the door behind me. I just kept walking. By the time my bus reached the diner where I grabbed breakfast before my shift, my phone was buzzing nonstop. 10 calls from Heather before 10 a.m. Then, at lunch, 5 calls and 4 texts from my dad. You were supposed to babysit. Do you realize you cost Heather her appointment? I ignored every single one. When I finally got home around 3 p.m., the house felt like it was vibrating with tension. The second I opened the door, Heather was right there. Face red, hair frazzled, one of the toddlers tugging at her leg while the baby cried in the background. She looked like she'd been rehearsing her speech all day. You knew I had that appointment, she screamed, her voice sharp enough to make the baby cry harder. Do you realize how selfish you are? I had to cancel. Do you have any idea how hard it is to even get in with that doctor? You ruined everything because you're too busy playing grown-up with your little job. I stood in the doorway, exhausted from work, but too stubborn to back down. I told you I wasn't calling out, I said evenly. That was never going to happen. You knew that. That was apparently the wrong answer. Heather's face twisted like she'd swallowed vinegar. You think you're some kind of man because you have a paycheck? You're a child. You live under this roof. You eat our food. You sleep in our house. I cut her off. Dad pays for this roof. Not me. Not you. Her eyes widened, and for a second I thought she was going to slap me. Instead, she lunged forward and tried to grab my phone out of my hand. Give me that, she snapped. If you're going to keep ignoring us, then you don't need this. I jerked my hand back. You're not taking my phone. Fine, she spat. Wait until your father gets home. You'll see what happens then. The rest of the afternoon was silent except for the sounds of toddlers crying and cartoons blaring too loud. I stayed in my room, door locked, phone on silent, replaying the argument in my head. By the time Dad came home around 7, I knew exactly how this was going to go. And I was right. He stormed into my room without knocking, Heather trailing behind him like his shadow. His face was tight, his jaw clenched, and I could smell the cigarette smoke clinging to his work jacket. You left Heather stranded, he started, his voice low and dangerous. She missed her appointment because of you. Do you think that's what family does? I didn't answer right away. He hated that. You're 17, he pressed. You think you're grown, but you're not. You might not want to be with your siblings, but you owe it to this family to contribute, to help out, to make time. Heather doesn't deserve this. The kids don't deserve this. You don't get to walk out on them because you're bitter I remarried. Something in me snapped at that. I'm not bitter you remarried, I said, standing up so I was eye level with him. I'm bitter that you expect me to drop everything for a woman I didn't choose and kids I didn't make. I told you I wasn't babysitting. You didn't listen. That's on you, not me. His face turned red. For a second I thought he was going to hit me. Instead, he jabbed his finger into my chest. You keep this up, he growled, and you're going to end up with no family left. None. You think those paychecks will love you? You think school will keep you warm at night? Family is what matters, and you're throwing it away. I looked him dead in the eye. I'd rather have no family than this one. The silence after that was heavier than any yelling could have been. Heather gasped. Dad's hand twitched like he wanted to grab me. But I didn't flinch. I just waited. Finally, he shook his head. You'll regret this. One day, you'll regret it. Then he slammed the door so hard the frame rattled. Sunday morning, the air in the house was thick enough to choke on. Heather wouldn't look at me when I came into the kitchen. She clattered dishes around like every plate had personally offended her. My dad sat at the table with his coffee, staring at me over the rim of his mug like a judge waiting for a confession. It didn't take long before he broke the silence. Well, he said, do you have something you want to say to Heather? I didn't even pause. No. Heather slammed a plate into the sink so hard I thought it would shatter. Dad's eyes narrowed. You left her stranded. She missed her appointment. She was humiliated. And you embarrassed this family. You need to apologize. I leaned against the counter and folded my arms. I'm not sorry. Heather spun around. You're not sorry? Do you have any idea how selfish you sound? You ruined everything because you wanted to play big shot at your little job. You're a child. I met her glare. Then stop trying to make me your built-in babysitter. That shut her up for a second. But my dad wasn't about to let it go. You're digging yourself into a hole, son, he warned. This isn't just about babysitting. This is about family. You think you're proving a point, but all you're doing is burning bridges. One day you'll look back and regret throwing away the people who were there for you. That was it. I laughed. Bitter, sharp, humorless. Were there for me. I repeated. Since when? You've been too busy playing perfect husband and father to your new family to even notice me. The only time you pay attention is when you want something. Babysitting, chores, silence. So don't act like I'm the one walking away. You left me behind years ago. His face went red, but I didn't stop. And for the record, I have zero regrets about yesterday. None. I went to work. I kept my job. I made money. Every shift I take is another step closer to getting out of this house. And once I'm gone for good. You think I'm bluffing? Watch me. For a moment, the kitchen was silent except for the sound of the baby crying in the other room. Heather looked like she was about to cry herself. Dad just stared at me like he couldn't recognize the person standing in front of him. Finally, he shook his head. You'll never make it on your own. You'll come crawling back. Mark my words. I pushed away from the counter. We'll see. Then I walked out, grabbed my backpack, headed straight to work without another word. Because the truth is, I'm not bluffing. Every hour I clock in is fuel for my escape. And the second I turn 18, I'm gone. Gone from the yelling. Gone from the guilt trips. Gone from being forced into a family I never asked for. And I won't look back. People keep telling me I'll regret this. That one day I'll miss the family I walked away from. But the truth? I already missed the family I never had. When I was younger, I thought my dad and I were solid. It was just the two of us after the divorce. He worked a lot, but when he was home, he was present. We'd watch movies, cook pasta at midnight, talk about dumb stuff like video games or the weird teachers at school. He was my dad, but he was also my best friend. Then Heather showed up. At first, I didn't mind her. She seemed nice enough, and Dad was happy, happier than I'd seen him in years. I told myself I could deal with it, that it didn't matter if things changed a little. But a little became everything. Suddenly, I wasn't the priority anymore. The two of us against the world turned into you're old enough to handle yourself, so deal with it. Heather got the attention. Then the babies came, one after another, like rapid fire. And just like that, I was invisible. Now, the only time they remember I exist is when they need something. Babysitting, running errands, picking up slack. It's not about me being part of the family. It's about me being useful. That's why I work so much. That's why I focus on school. It's not just ambition, it's survival. Every paycheck I get, I stash away. Every assignment I turn in is one more grade closer to a scholarship. I don't go out with friends as much. I don't waste money on junk, because everything is about the end goal, freedom. I've got a spreadsheet on my laptop where I track every dollar I earn. Rent estimates, cost of living breakdowns, emergency savings, even worst-case scenarios if I lose a job. I'm not just dreaming about leaving. I'm planning it like a military operation. I'll be 18 in less than a year. The second that birthday hits, I'm gone. No tearful goodbyes. No second thoughts. Just me, my stuff, and a lease signed under my own name. People think family is supposed to be unconditional. That no matter what, you should stick it out because blood is blood. But here's the thing. Blood doesn't mean love. Blood doesn't mean respect. And it sure as hell doesn't mean sacrifice your future for people who see you as disposable. I'd rather be alone and free than trapped in a house where I'm nothing more than cheap labor and a punching bag for their frustrations. So no, I don't regret what I did Saturday. Not one bit. If anything, it proved to me that I'm right. That I can stand my ground. That I don't owe anyone an apology for choosing myself over people who wouldn't hesitate to use me up and toss me aside. This isn't rebellion. This isn't teenage drama. This is survival. And survival means getting out, no matter what it takes. When I came home from work the day after Heather's missed appointment, the house felt like a ticking time bomb. The babies were screaming. Heather was pacing around with that bitter scowl plastered on her face, and my dad was sitting at the kitchen table, arms crossed, waiting for me like a judge about to hand down a sentence. The second I walked through the door, Heather pounced. "You're selfish. You're cruel. You knew I needed that appointment, and you still ran off. Do you know what it's like to raise 3 kids by yourself while your father works? Do you even care?" I didn't even look at her. I just kicked my shoes off and said, flatly, "I told you I wasn't babysitting. That's not my problem." Wrong answer. She started shouting louder, calling me ungrateful, lazy, a bad influence on the babies. She even threw in, "No wonder your mom left," like she thought that would break me. My stomach twisted, but I refused to give her the satisfaction of a reaction. Then my dad stood up, and when he stood up, the whole house went silent. "You don't talk to Heather like that," he said, his voice low but dangerous. "You don't disrespect her in my house. You live here. You eat here. You sleep here. You will contribute, or you will get out." For a second, I actually laughed. A short, bitter, humorless laugh. Get out? Fine. That's the plan anyway. I'm not your built-in babysitter. I'm not your maid. I'm not your replacement wife. I'm your son, and you treat me like I'm disposable. His face turned red. I swear, I thought he was about to hit me. He slammed his hand down on the table so hard the babies started crying again. "You think you're grown?" he barked. "You think because you've got some part-time job and a little cash stashed away that you know everything? You don't know what it means to be a man. A man steps up for his family. A man sacrifices. A man doesn't run off and abandon people who depend on him." I looked him dead in the eye. My hands were shaking, but my voice was steady. "No. A man doesn't let his kid raise his other kids. A man doesn't ignore his son for years and then demand loyalty when it's convenient. A man doesn't use guilt and threats to control people. You're not describing a man. You're describing yourself." The silence that followed was suffocating. Heather gasped like I'd just shot someone. My dad stared at me, jaw clenched, fists tight, and for a split second I honestly thought I was about to pack my bags that night, whether I had a plan or not. But then he turned away. He didn't yell. He didn't hit me. He just muttered, "Go to your room," like I was 5 years old again. So I did, but not before saying, loud enough for both of them to hear, "This isn't your house anymore. It's just a stop along the way. And when I leave, I'm not looking back." I shut my door and locked it, my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my ears. That was the moment I knew, really knew, there was no repairing this. The bridge wasn't just burned. It was ashes. And honestly, for the first time in years, I felt free. The house has been quiet since that night. Not peaceful quiet. More like the kind of silence that lingers after a storm, when you know another one is brewing on the horizon. Heather doesn't talk to me unless it's to snap about chores I forgot to do. My dad hasn't looked me in the eye since I told him he wasn't a man, and honestly, I'm fine with that. I've stopped eating meals with them. I make my own food, keep my door shut, and spend as much time at work or school as possible. If I'm home, I've got headphones in and the door locked. I don't care if it looks disrespectful. Respect is earned, not demanded. And if they think I feel guilty about Heather missing her appointment, they're wrong. I feel nothing. She thought she could manipulate me with guilt trips, and my dad thought he could intimidate me into submission. They're both wrong. They've underestimated me my entire life, and now that I'm standing up for myself, they don't know how to handle it. But here's the thing. I don't need them to handle it. Because I've got a plan. Every shift I work, every paycheck I collect, is another brick in the wall I'm building between me and this house. I've already been looking at rooms for rent near my school and talking to a couple of friends about splitting a place once we graduate. I've run the numbers, and if I keep grinding, I can be out before my 18th birthday. And when I walk out, it won't just be from this house. It'll be from the constant guilt, the screaming, the expectations, the way they've tried to mold me into something convenient for them. I'll be done. No more being forced into the big brother babysitter role. No more being the spare kid, the afterthought. Sometimes I wonder if my dad even realizes what's about to happen. He thinks I'm bluffing, that I'll stay because I have no choice, that I'll fold because family is supposed to be forever. But family isn't forever when it's toxic. Family isn't forever when it eats away at you until there's nothing left. I don't feel bad about leaving. I don't feel bad about going no contact. The truth is, I feel stronger knowing I can build a life without them. A life where I don't have to flinch every time my phone buzzes with their names on the screen. A life where I can focus on school, work, and the future I want, not the one they're trying to trap me in. If they ever look back and wonder why I left, the answer is simple. Because they made me want to. And when that day comes, I won't be here to explain it. I'll already be gone. And that's the story. If you've made it this far, thank you for listening. If you enjoyed it, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Until next time.